Today, we're diving into the heart of Exodus chapters 19 to 21, particularly focusing on the pivotal moments when the Israelites are at Mount Sinai. This is when the Israelites receive some of the most important laws and guidelines from God. It's a heavy chapter, but there's so much richness here. What stands out to you about the way God presents himself in Exodus 19?
Right off the bat, it's fascinating how God emphasizes his power and authority. In Exodus 19, he tells the Israelites, "I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself." It's such a vivid image. It's not just about a rescue from Egypt, but it's a personal, almost intimate kind of deliverance. Do you think the Israelites fully grasped what that meant in the moment?
I doubt it, to be honest. Think about it. They'd just escaped Egypt, and now they're standing at the base of a mountain that's shaking and filled with smoke. It's a bit overwhelming. But God sets the stage for a relationship here, doesn't he? He calls them to obey him, to be his people, and he promises to make them a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. The way he frames it seems like a huge honor.
It definitely sounds like an honor, but I wonder how they felt about it. God's clear. They need to be sanctified before he comes down to meet them. He even warns them not to touch the mountain, and that warning is pretty intense. If anyone touches the mountain, they'll die. It's almost as though he's showing them how sacred this encounter is.
Absolutely. It's a holy moment, and it's a test of their reverence and readiness. But do you think they understood what was at stake, or were they just following out of fear?
I think it was a mix of both. The thunder, lightning, and the loud trumpet would definitely have been terrifying. They were probably in awe of God's power, but also a little frightened. It's human nature to fear the unknown, especially when faced with something so otherworldly. But despite that fear, they agree to follow God's command. When they say, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do," it shows a sense of commitment, but also a kind of pressure to not fail.
That's true. It's a commitment with a weighty responsibility. Speaking of responsibility, the next chapter is where things get real, the Ten Commandments. This is where we really see God lay down his laws for his people. The first commandment, no other gods before him, seems simple, but it's foundational, isn't it?
Definitely foundational, it's a matter of loyalty. For the Israelites, surrounded by nations that worship multiple gods, this was probably a huge shift in thinking. For God, it's about being the one true God in their lives, without any competitors. He says, "I am a jealous God," which adds a whole new layer to the relationship.
It's powerful language. And then he moves on to the second commandment, no idols. That one's interesting because it's not just about physical idols, but about the broader idea of giving anything else the place of importance that only God should have. It seems to speak to the human tendency to idolize things or ideas, even today.
Exactly. It's not just about statues or images, it's about priorities. Whatever we place above God, be it success, relationships, or even our own comfort, can become an idol. But what strikes me about this commandment is that God links our faithfulness to him with generational consequences. He says he visits the iniquity of the fathers on the children for the third and fourth generation, but shows mercy to thousands of those who love him.
Yeah, it's a reminder that our actions, good or bad, can ripple through generations. It's sobering, especially when you think about the long-term impact of disobedience. But at the same time, he promises incredible grace to those who love him. The mercy he shows is profound.
It is. And then he moves to the Sabbath. Remembering the Sabbath and keeping it holy seems so countercultural in today's world, right? We're so caught up in productivity and busyness. But back then, it was a commandment that was meant to give them rest, both physically and spiritually. It wasn't just a day off, it was a day of worship, a sacred pause.
Absolutely. I think we've lost a bit of that rhythm today, haven't we? It's not just about taking a break, but reconnecting with God, refocusing on what's important. And then, the commandment to honor your father and mother. Again, it's about honoring authority, which can be a tough one, especially in times when people don't always agree with the authority figures around them.
Right? Honoring your parents is about more than just obeying them. It's about respecting the role they play in your life. And then, of course, we get to the famous "thou shalt not murder" and "thou shalt not commit adultery." These seem like common sense rules, but they go much deeper when you think about the heart behind them. God is concerned with more than just actions. He's concerned with the intent behind them.
And what about the commandment about stealing? You shall not steal. But it's not just about taking someone's property. It's about respecting others' rights and dignity. The Bible's ethical guidelines are so much more than a list of do's and don'ts. They're about cultivating a society where people respect one another.
Exactly. And let's not forget the command about coveting. Not just don't steal, but don't even desire what others have. That's a tough one because it's not always about action. It's about the thoughts and desires we entertain. It challenges us to check our hearts constantly.
And then, after all these commandments, we see the people's response. They're terrified, right? The thunder, the lightning, the trumpet blasts, everything about this encounter is overwhelming. And they ask Moses to speak to them on behalf of God because they're too afraid to hear directly from God.
It's understandable though. The whole scene is so intense. And Moses reassures them, telling them that God's come to test them, to put his fear before them, so they don't sin. It's a sobering reminder that God is holy, and he expects his people to be holy too.
Right. It's about reverence, but also about understanding that holiness is something you approach with humility. That leads us into the next part of Exodus 20, where God tells Moses that he doesn't want any gods of silver or gold. He wants an altar made of earth or uncut stones. I think that's significant. God doesn't want anything that's been shaped or formed by human hands. It's a reminder that our worship isn't about our own creations or efforts, but about responding to his holiness.
It's like a symbolic way of saying, you can't control me. You can't craft your own version of what I should be. I think it's a good lesson for us today. Too often we try to fit God into the mold of our own expectations.
Absolutely. It's easy to try to shape God to fit our preferences. But this part of Exodus reminds us that true worship is about aligning ourselves with his will, not the other way around.
I agree. And it makes me think about how we approach faith in general. Do we really honor God for who he is, or do we sometimes try to reduce him to something more manageable? It's a tough question, but one worth pondering.
It definitely is. As we continue in Exodus, we'll see more of how God's laws are meant to shape the way his people live together. But for now, I think we've covered some pretty deep ground. There's a lot to reflect on here. God bless.